Hezbollah recently launched a major drone attack on an Israeli military base near the town of Binyamina. According to Israeli officials, at least 4 Israeli soldiers were killed, and around 70 were wounded in the attack. However, Hezbollah claims the impact of the attack was much greater, with some sources even suggesting that the Israeli chief of staff was among those killed, although this has not been verified. The frantic efforts to treat the wounded and the footage from the scene give a glimpse of the scale of the attack. This incident once again highlights how fragile the balance of power is in the Middle East and raises questions about where the ongoing struggle between regional powers is heading. Immediately after the attack, both the Israeli military and the government were in complete shock. The fact that Hezbollah could penetrate Israel's sophisticated air defense systems and strike such a strategic target has raised significant concerns in the country. Israeli officials and the public are now asking how Hezbollah managed to bypass the Iron Dome defense system and hit the military base at its busiest time. The attack occurred during dinner. Israeli soldiers were seated at their tables, eating to unwind after a long day, when Hezbollah's kamikaze drone, carrying dozens of kilograms of explosives, slammed into the base. The scene was one of utter chaos, with many soldiers wounded and some killed instantly. Ambulances worked non-stop for hours, transporting the wounded to different hospitals across Israel. The images from the aftermath reveal the fear and confusion the soldiers experienced. Israel had to send the wounded to 8 different hospitals, with several soldiers in critical condition. The big question now in Israel is how Hezbollah managed to breach the sophisticated Iron Dome system. Israelis are debating whether Hezbollah's success was a result of sheer luck or meticulous planning. Either way, this attack has exposed vulnerabilities in Israel's defense systems. If Hezbollah can cause such damage with a simple drone, far more devastating attacks could be on the horizon. The drone used by Hezbollah in this attack was an Iranian-made Escalating model. These kamikaze drones are not particularly advanced. They typically have a range of 120 kilometers, can reach speeds of up to 370 kilometers per hour, and carry about 40 kilograms of explosives. However, because they are not as sophisticated as other modern drones, they are harder to detect by radar. In this case, Hezbollah's use of a low-tech drone actually gave it an advantage over Israel's high-tech defense systems. The drone that hit the Israeli military base carried 40 kilograms of explosives. However, experts believe that if it had carried 400 kilograms, the attack could have been one of the deadliest in Israeli history. According to Israeli officials, both drones were tracked by radar for some time, but one was shot down over the northern shores of Haifa. Sirens were sounded across the western Galilee region, warning people in the area when the first drone entered Israeli airspace. However, no sirens were sounded for the second drone that struck the military base, meaning Israel's defense systems failed to detect it. As a result, Israeli soldiers were completely caught off guard by the attack. This incident has once again exposed the vulnerabilities in Israel's defense systems. This incident has not only shocked Israel militarily but also strategically. Hezbollah specifically targeted the Golani Brigade, one of Israel's elite military units. Israeli soldiers were caught off guard because Hezbollah launched the attack at a time when the soldiers felt most secure, during their dinner. This has been a painful reminder for the Israeli military of how vulnerable they can be. The attack also highlighted one of the major weaknesses of the Israeli army. Their defense systems are not foolproof. Israel's health minister, Uriel Busso, summed it up well when he said, "I don't think any country in the world has better defenses against drones than Israel, but we are not perfect, and sometimes we are caught off guard." His statement did little to calm fears, as it only reinforced the idea that no man-made system is flawless. Over the past year, Hezbollah has increasingly deployed Iranian-made drones, which have posed a significant challenge to Israel's defense systems. These drones fly at low altitudes and emit weak radar signals, making them difficult to detect. In this case, the lack of sophistication in the drone's design worked to Hezbollah's advantage. Israel now faces the daunting task of figuring out how to counter these low-tech yet highly effective attacks. This latest attack has heavily impacted northern Israel. Hezbollah's constant attacks have forced tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of people to flee their homes. While it is often said that Hezbollah targets northern Israel, in reality, the entire country is vulnerable to rocket and drone attacks. Hezbollah likely focuses on the north for logistical reasons, as it is more strategic and effective for their operations. This attack is part of Hezbollah's broader strategy against Israel. It is not only causing physical damage but also waging psychological warfare. Hezbollah has already warned that if Israel continues its strikes on civilian targets in Lebanon, they will intensify their attacks on Israel. But can these attacks change the course of the war? Or will every Hezbollah success only push Israel to become even more aggressive? Israel's military operations in Lebanon are becoming increasingly intense. In response to Hezbollah's attack, Israel bombed southern Lebanon, Beirut, and even northern Lebanon using aircraft and drones. Some reports suggest that Israeli tanks have crossed the border into Lebanon. Whether Israel is deliberately targeting civilians is up for debate. However, Israel acknowledges hitting civilian areas, claiming that Hezbollah militants and weapons are hidden in these locations. Israel's actions have drawn significant international criticism, but Hezbollah is unlikely to follow the same strategy. If Hezbollah were to launch a missile, bomb, or drone into a civilian-populated area like Haifa or Tel Aviv, killing large numbers of civilians, it could prompt direct intervention from the United States and European powers. This is a scenario that neither Iran nor Lebanon wants. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is intent on drawing the United States further into the conflict. If U.S. troops are deployed to Lebanon, Syria, or Iraq, it could lead to direct military intervention in the region. The U.S., already more involved in the Middle East than ever, could reshape these areas entirely, potentially handing over parts of them to Israel. Just before these latest events, the U.S. announced that it would be sending the THAAD missile defense system and the personnel to operate it to Israel. THAAD is designed to counter ballistic missiles and will enhance Israel's air defenses. However, questions remain about whether this system will be sufficient. Each THAAD battery requires around 100 soldiers to operate, and it remains unclear whether one battery will be enough to protect Israel from future threats. The Middle East is not just a battleground for Israel. It's becoming a region where the U.S. is increasingly involved. The U.S. is providing direct military support to Israel and increasing its presence in the region. What would happen if an Iranian ballistic missile killed several U.S. soldiers? This would likely lead to direct U.S. involvement in the war. The U.S. already has military bases in Israel, and other facilities and personnel are also present. There are even U.S. liaison and decision-making officers embedded within the Israeli military. The Middle East is evolving into something entirely different, and the U.S. is playing an increasingly significant role in shaping its future. The Middle East is boiling over, and maps are being redrawn. Israel continues to target Gaza and the West Bank while expanding its military operations in Lebanon. Meanwhile, the U.S. is deepening its involvement in the region. These developments will have far-reaching consequences, not just for the Middle East but for the world. The impact on Turkey cannot be ignored. The regions currently being fought over were once Ottoman provinces, and while they are no longer part of modern Turkey, they are Turkey's neighbors. What happens in Lebanon, Syria, or Iraq will inevitably affect Turkey. The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear. The ongoing conflicts in the Middle East will have global repercussions, and the world must pay close attention to how these events unfold. Thanks for watching.